All right, everybody, this is a fucking raid.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I wanted to do that cold open. So, hi everyone, welcome. Oh, I had my volume turned down. Hi everyone, welcome to Mindgasms. Gonna do a podcast here. With me, I am Shocked Mindgasms, aka Andrew, and we've got Dusty, aka the Woke Untouchable, and then we got CJ, aka Chris, aka Tubin. We're going to talk about this recent shocking news that Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida was raided unannounced and searched by the FBI. So I don't really know anything about this yet. You guys probably know more about it than me, but I don't know if maybe there's a connection to the January 6th committee, and if there's a possibility of him being permanently prosecuted for Trump supporters storming the Capitol last year. And yeah, I wanted to just go through a bit of this New York Times article. I think I mentioned this before you got here, Chris, this New York Times article on it, and then we can comment on Jimmy Dore's little 5-minute video reaction to it. So let's go into the article here. Okay. Okay. FBI searches Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence in Florida. Former president called the search an assault and complained that the authorities had broken into his safe. The news appeared to come as a surprise to top aides at the White House. Former president said the Mar-a-Lago search was unannounced. Former President Donald J. Trump said on Monday that the FBI had searched his Palm Beach, Florida home and broken open a safe, an account signaling a major escalation in the various investigations into the final stages of his presidency. That does sound like it's maybe connected to the January 6th committee. The search, according to multiple people familiar with the investigation, that sounds suspicious, familiar with the investigation, appeared to be focused on material that Mr. Trump had brought with him to Mar-a-Lago, his private club and residence, when he left the White House. Oh yeah, he allegedly had classified documents, right? Those boxes contain many pages of classified documents, according to a person familiar with their contents. According to a person familiar with their contents. These are not good journalistic standards here. By Monday night, a couple dozen supporters of former President Donald J. Trump had gathered across the street from his private residence in Palm Beach, Florida, some holding Trump-Pence flags from the 2020 campaign, others wearing red Make America Great Again caps, but all were united in their anger over the news that federal authorities had conducted a search of Mar-a-Lago and, according to Mr. Trump, had even broken into a safe. I'm just going to go through bits and pieces of this. It's unusual for senior government officials to be charged in connection with mishandling classified information. Yeah, I was just watching Vosh commenting on this, and apparently even Nixon got pardoned for Watergate after he was president. Like they do tend to just kind of let presidents get away with their war crimes when they're no longer presidents. The FBI's search of former President Donald J. Trump's Mar-a-Lago home in Florida drew swift condemnation on Monday evening from some Republican governors who quickly backed Mr. Trump's message that the Justice Department was being used against him. I can see how people could see that as a partisan move. The entrance to Mr. Trump's golf club in Bedminster, New Jersey, his summer White House, when he was in office, was quiet on Monday night. The club is located in a rural area near a number of horse farms and does not have a gate. A black SUV is parked there, apparently as a makeshift barrier. House Jan 6 panel is scheduled to interview Pompeo and Mastriano on Tuesday. In the wake of the FBI search of former President Donald J. Trump's property in Florida, the House committee investigating the January 6th attack on the Capitol He's gearing up to meet with 2 potentially key witnesses in its separate inquiry on Tuesday. So it sounds like it is connected with it. Republican officials reacted with fury to news of the search. Of course they did. If Trump broke a law on the removal of official records, would he be barred from future office? That's a good question. I don't know that. Early reports that the FBI search of former President Donald J. Trump's residence in Florida related to an investigation into whether he had unlawfully taken government files when he left the White House focused attention on an obscure criminal law barring removal of official records. This sounds like kind of a minor technicality, like how they got Al Capone on tax fraud, for example. The penalties for breaking that law include disqualification from holding any federal office. Oh, okay, so maybe they are trying to prevent him from being able to run. Television journalists and 2 Trump supporters holding flags stood on a bridge across the water from Mar-a-Lago late Monday. Closer to the resort, a few police vehicles were sitting on South Ocean Boulevard. Federal agents, including one holding a long rifle, were nearby with their vehicles guarding the entrance. One with a long rifle. Wow. I don't need to go through all these tweets.
Yeah, they mean business when they bring the guns.
Yeah. News that the FBI had searched Mar-a-Lago appeared to have been first reported Monday by Peter Schorsch, the publisher of Florida Politics.com. Mr. Schorsch, a former political operative, started blogging years ago as a way to trade political gossip and help clients. But as viewership grew along with revenues, he has hired veteran political reporters in the state and gained credibility for his website, which identifies itself as a new media platform covering campaigns, elections, government policy, and lobbying in Florida. So that's not, this didn't necessarily originate from a quote-unquote reputable source. Attorney General Garland, preserve your documents and clear your calendar, he wrote in a statement. What is a federal search warrant? Federal law enforcement officials obtain search warrants when they need to move quickly on a criminal investigation or are concerned that sensitive materials they need might be in danger of being moved, concealed, altered, or destroyed. From the archives, a look at the inquiry that led to the FBI search of Trump's Florida home. After Mr. Trump returned the boxes to the National Archives, its archivists found documents containing items marked as classified national security information, the agency told Congress in February. The FBI's search of Mar-a-Lago came as former President Donald J. Trump weighs an increasingly likely third White House bid. He has considered making an unusually early announcement this year, a move designed in part to shield himself from a stream of damaging revelations emerging from congressional and criminal investigations into his attempts to cling to power after losing the 2020 election. I've heard people theorize about that before. I didn't hear him confirm that himself. But there have been increasing doubts about his viability as a candidate in 2024. A New York Times/Siena poll last month showed that while Mr. Trump maintained his primacy in the party, a significant number of Republicans said they would not support him in a rematch with President Biden. In that hypothetical matchup, Mr. Trump trailed President Biden 41% to 44%. I don't really trust polling data that much, but yeah, that's basically the summation of the article. So let's talk about that before we go on to what Jimmy Dore said about it there. So you were the first one who brought this to my attention, Dusty. So what do you think about this whole situation? You there, Dusty? He said he might be in and out of the chat. So let's get your reaction instead then, Chris.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, like a lot of hot news, there doesn't seem like there's any definitive, like all we know is the FBI went in there, there's a lot of speculation at this point, but I don't think we'll actually know, what happened, what they were looking for, yada, 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 for maybe a couple weeks, days, maybe a month, maybe a year, who knows, right? It's hard to trust like sources, anything these days, right? Like even you bringing up the New York Times there, right? It's like, all right, not that there's anything, well, okay, there's, yeah, that's a whole nother podcast though on what is wrong with the New York Times. But like, even if we did find out from a reliable source what they were looking for. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. It's hard to trust FBI government institutions these days, but yeah, it's hard. I don't know. Like there's half of me that's like, who gives a fuck, right? It's Trump, and who gives? He was the president. He's not anymore, and I've moved on from that era in a way. Yet kind of miss it in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but I think what's interesting, there's a lot of things that are interesting about this, though. First of all, like, it's unprecedented. A word I hear all the time now, which drives me insane, but I'll use it here. Unprecedented for them to do this, which is kind of true. I don't think there's any other president that's been, raided by the FBI at their personal residence before. So that's a first.
Yeah,
I don't think if this is a play by the Dems, I was gonna say, like some right winger. If this is a play by the Dems, smart play, right? I think it just like it gives conservatives and his base, like, you know what I mean? It gives them, like, I feel like there's going to be a backlash from this, or like kind of like how there was a backlash from the right wing or conservatives from January the 6th, right?
Right.
As they were pulling that move, you were kind of like, oh shit, this isn't going to be good. And as the FBI is looking, unless they find like some fucking golden ticket that has like, Trump peeing on beds in Russia or something like that.
Yeah.
Or he was like,
that was reported on by the New York Times in the first place too, wasn't it?
Or somebody, I don't know. It's hard to trust anything these days, right?
Yeah.
So, unless they have something, like, if they have something, they must have, or they better have something good on him at this point, you would think, right? In order for them to blatantly make a move like this, and send in the FBI to raid his home, right? Like warrants, a judge would have to look over this evidence. There had to be some kind of steps and checks and balances in play before somebody actually pressed a button to send the FBI over there. So, maybe there's something good. I don't know. Maybe maybe he's money laundering and stole a bunch of furniture from the White House. Who knows, right?
Yeah, who knows?
He wasn't there, so he was in New York at the time. So I think, yeah. I don't know. Maybe this is all a distraction, though, too, right? I was thinking about this earlier. Like, maybe this is just like, hey, guys, here's this going on right here. Meanwhile, China is doing whatever, and Ukraine and Russia is doing whatever that nobody's paying attention to because of this event right now, which is like really kind of meaningless, right? Like, people like presidents and prime ministers are just really like figureheads, and I don't. You know what I mean? I know everybody's making this like a huge deal, but is it a big deal? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't know either. Like,
well, I got a comment.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go nuts.
One thing that I thought was really interesting is that the director of the FBI was appointed by Trump, and the director of the FBI had to have signed off on this.
Oh, wow.
So that's one of the reasons that's kind of keeping me back as like a political maneuver. Because even when Comey was in office, he did some questionable things that didn't support either party. Like, there are things that he made both parties look bad, like the Hillary Clinton stuff, and then he made Trump look pretty bad.
Yeah.
So this new FBI director, he had to have signed off on that raid, and I'm pretty sure there was a lot of deliberation about it before it happened. It wasn't like some off-the-cuff decision that was made. I'm pretty sure there was a lot of deliberation. But as far as who else knew about it, no clue. I don't know if Biden knew about it, but there's been a lot of memes about Dark Brandon floating around the internet.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
What's that? What's Dark Brandon?
Dark Brandon is kind of like the counter to like Dark MAGA, where
I didn't know that.
He's basically doing like I don't know, like dark shit, I guess, like scheming and for political power. And that's what they consider. That's why they the dark Brandon memes have been popping up, as they're trying to attribute this raid to as like a political scheme that Biden is running.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I highly doubt that, it's this orchestrated thing by Biden. I mean, like, yeah, I mean, it does seem like kind of a minor thing as far as we know so far, like having classified documents at your home residence. I mean, I don't know what the punishment would be for that sort of thing, but I mean, maybe they know more about that sort of thing. And then I saw conservatives on Fox News, I think, complaining about this because they compared it to Hillary Clinton having like classified information in her email servers in 2016 or something like that, and the FBI never prosecuted for that. So that's one reason that they're saying that that the FBI is acting in a partisan way. But yeah, I don't know about that.
And
Well, one thing I know about Hillary's server,
as well, right? Like,
well, Hillary was still an employee of the United States government when she was in possession of those items.
Okay.
Like, she could be in possession, she just didn't properly store them. The thing about Donald Trump is he's not supposed to be in possession of those things at all.
Okay.
Like, he has to relinquish all classified material to the U.S. government. He's not allowed to actually have any of that.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I don't really agree with the conservative accusation of hypocrisy. Not for that reason, but because like the people I saw talking about it, I think it was that guy named Dan Bongino on Fox News. He was saying, "Well, we're not living in Cuba. We're not in North Korea," and that sort of stuff. Like that's obviously hyperbolic. But what were you just gonna say about it there, Chris?
Yeah, you brought up the Hillary emails and the hypocrisy of not doing the Hillary. I was just saying that other conservatives were saying Hunter Biden, for example, right? There hasn't been any really looking into that. Right. Meanwhile, you have,
yeah. I saw someone. I think I was seeing Vosh talking about this and pointing out that and I think I mean he gets hyperbolic in defending the lefty side of this too, but he was pointing out that Hunter Biden is not actually any sort of government employee or anything like that, or involved with businesses due to his father, as a lot of Trump's kids were, which is true. The thing about the Hunter Biden doing drugs and having sex with hookers and stuff is that Biden's a hypocrite for being so hard on drug crimes and instituting the 1994 crime bill and stuff, even though I don't think anyone should suffer legal consequences for drugs. But it is true that he he is less directly involved with the government than some of Trump's children were, but not all of them were. And I mean, like, it's not like they all had government jobs or anything like that, but I think at least one of them did. I'm not really sure about the details of that.
Yeah, I mean, any president, prime minister, king, queen, or person in power is obviously going to, help out their friends and family members or whoever's in their Dunbar number if they have that much power underneath them, right? Like Trump's kids probably benefited just by working for him, and Jared, was the secretary or whatever for, yeah. So, but like just under Biden real quick, he was also sent to Ukraine by, and given a job by his father, right? So there is some kind of like, you did work for the government, but not really.
Yeah. There is a little bit of there is a little bit of kind of nepotism there, but people exaggerate that too. Like he had some sort of financial job, and he has a financial background, but it being the fact that it was a Ukrainian oil company, and it happened at around the same time that there's that controversy about Trump making phone calls with Ukraine. That is a little bit fishy.
Yeah, I think, people in positions of power, you're always gonna have questionable shit done by it just like Hunter was just happened to be a crackhead, right? Which is like the funny thing about that whole thing. But we don't have to go down that rabbit hole, because again, there's a lot of who knows, and I mean, some stuff has been uncovered and written about in the laptop, but yeah. But yeah, back to the Mar-a-Lago thing on Trump. Yeah, I just wonder if this will have any like what this will do to kind of shift the voting. Does this mean that if he's under investigation now, he's no longer like, now is DeSantis going to be like the front runner now? Do you know what I mean? Or does this? I'm just thinking from the right here for a minute. Or does this pump up kind of Trump and his base, because he's always been this guy was supposed to drain the swamp, yada yada yada, never really did. But you know what I mean? Now the swamp is kind of in his house, breaking open his safe.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
like,
yeah.
I kind of wonder where like that, as far as political, where that kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I was thinking about this sort of just analytically and strategically too, because I think Dusty and I were talking a bit about this before, and I think he disagreed with me that if it ends up being Trump and Biden again in 2024, that I think Trump has a good chance of beating Biden, just in terms of what might happen. Not that I want that to happen, but I think Dusty thought that Biden would have a better chance of beating Trump if they both run against each other. And then I kind of doubt that Biden is going to run again in 2024. And lefties seem to think that that's a bad idea too, because, people exaggerate it, but there is some validity to the claims of him having if cognitive decline, at least, if not something like dementia or something like that. And I mean, I wonder, I'm just curious of how it would go if Trump ends up not being able to run because of this, like you were saying. Would DeSantis be the front runner, or would it be a variety of other people like Liz Cheney or someone? And if it is DeSantis or someone else, and they're against Biden, would they be likely to lose against Biden? If Biden doesn't run, would any Republican other than Trump have a good chance of beating Kamala Harris? I think there are a lot of different factors that make that kind of unpredictable.
Well, one of the things I wanted to say is I think Biden has no chance against DeSantis. I think if he went up against DeSantis, he'd pretty much lose.
Okay.
But I think Biden has some chance of beating Trump.
Okay.
That's why I think Trump would be a better adversary for Biden than DeSantis. Because I think DeSantis, he would mop Biden up just even in the debates. You saw how shit Trump was in the debates versus Biden. It was just laughably bad.
Yeah.
But I think DeSantis would have he doesn't have the moral failings that Trump has. And he's still a shitty person, but he doesn't have all this baggage currently attached to him.
And
so that's why I think DeSantis has a better shot than Trump.
And then also, as some of the lefty YouTubers who you and I follow, like Kyle Kulinski, have pointed out, just because of DeSantis's rhetoric in terms of the culture war, that has made people like Joe Rogan think that he's actually better in terms of policies than he actually is, because he's supposedly actually very similar to Trump in terms of his policies, which, as we were alluding to before, he campaigned as a populist before he got elected in 2016, but kind of governed as a standard traditional Republican in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I do think that that's pretty much the case. Like, I think Kyle has it spot on with that analysis. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think Trump is still a great motivator for Democrats to come out and vote against him. But I don't think DeSantis has that same anti-vote motivation that Trump does. Because
Right.
people weren't voting for Biden because they liked Biden. They were voting against Trump. So I think the same election would happen. Do people want to vote against DeSantis? Or are they going to come out to vote against Trump again? So I
Yeah.
think like DeSantis doesn't have as many obstacles as Trump does. And maybe, I don't know what's going to happen with this raid, but the implications are that if he's convicted of something, that he may not be eligible to run for office. So it's just kind of crazy in itself. So this can possibly disqualify him from the next election. I don't know. We got to see what happens with that.
Yeah, but how do you think that would go if Trump doesn't end up running, Chris? If it ends up being like Biden versus DeSantis or Biden versus Kamala?
Yeah, I don't think Biden would running. I mean, Biden is at an all-time low presidential.
I mean DeSantis
right?
versus Kamala, not Biden versus Kamala. Yeah.
I think it would be if DeSantis runs for the Republican Party. I think he'll win regardless if it's Biden or Harris. I think if Trump goes against Biden or whoever, I think that lowers the Republicans' chance. I think.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I think the Republicans would be stupid not to push DeSantis over Trump.
Okay, so you guys both think that if Trump does end up being able to run, that he would be less likely to win than if it's DeSantis or someone else?
Yeah, because DeSantis has kind of dipped his toes in the culture war shit for the past like year and a half, right? You know, he took on Disney, and the right looks at that as, you know, him kind of giving, because the conservatives don't stand up at all and shout from the hilltops when, you know, shit doesn't go their way, right? And DeSantis kind of pokes the bear a little bit. You know, he's been criticizing CRT and some of the trans movement that's been going on, right? And
like
so
drag queen story hour for kids, so called.
Yeah, that kind of stuff, right? So he'll comment on that or whatever, but he's like, it's at a tone that's way different than Trump, right? Whereas Trump just like, you got the shitty mean tweets and you know, you got, yeah, it was just like I feel like DeSantis is like a filtered version of Trump. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
Politically, that would put him in because if you're like, you know, kind of purple and on the fence whether to vote, and yeah, DeSantis on the ticket, he seems a lot more moderate of a candidate than Trump would be flying off. You know what I mean? I don't know. Either way, if it's like, the shitty thing is like for the United States and for us too, it's just bad, right? Like you could make the argument that the years under Trump were kind of bad, not bad, but like nothing really got done. And he didn't drain the swamp. He didn't free Julian Assange. He didn't stop all wars. He didn't, you know what I mean? All this kind of shit he didn't fix. And then you voted in Biden because he was the anti-Trump, and you hope that he came in with like this, you know, Build Back Better and did all that. He hasn't done any of that kind of stuff. He hasn't solved climate change. He was horrible on Afghanistan. He, you know, can't put a sentence or two together. I don't know. It's just like
fixing Trump's border wall.
Yeah, it's gone from shit to shit to shit, and we're gonna do the same, right? We're gonna go from Trudeau to probably Pierre Poilievre to probably whoever.
Who's Pierre Poilievre? I haven't heard of that. That person.
He's the front runner for the Conservative Party in Canada right now.
Oh, okay.
So,
I've
but
only
again,
been following that a little bit.
My point is that the people that we put as front runners for candidates for president these days, or prime minister, or front office, or whatever, we're not sending our best, and you guys know that obviously, but it's just yeah, the unfortunate thing is like, yeah, I don't know. It'll be fun to watch, but it's nothing's going to change. Unfortunately, I think we're going to be hitting. Inflation's going to still go up, and yeah.
I mean, that's this is a bit of a tangent, but I find it hilarious that that regardless of who the president is, it depends on your political affiliation. People blame gas prices and inflation on whoever is president at the time, even though I'm pretty sure that gas prices and inflation have pretty little to do with who the president is. It's kind of a much more lengthy process than 4 years and some minor economic or minor economic policy changes that whatever president does.
Yeah, I heard of something cool the other day called the Tocqueville paradox. Have you ever heard of this?
Oh, I saw that. I think I saw on Instagram that you posted something about that, but I didn't go into it. No, what is that?
Yeah, it's a good segue for me. I started a Substack and I wrote an article on it. This is how I'm pimping out my Substack articles.
Sweet.
But anyway, I stole it from Chris Williams' podcast, who does Modern Wisdom. But pretty much the Tocqueville paradox is, as society gets better and better and technology and everything like that, so does our perception of how society and that shit escalates up as well. So we're always kind of chasing that, how can things be better, blah, 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 right? Like, a lot of people will complain about politics and government just being absurdly fucking backwards and wrong, and you know what I mean, that kind of stuff. But yet we're living in the best time ever. More people have money in their pockets than ever before. The street lights still got me from point A to point B in my city tonight, and this is all run by the government, yada, 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 right? So we as a society and as human beings, we kind of nitpick and these small little slivers of things that seem like huge deals and seem like, kind of fuck ups actually aren't really that. Yeah, they mean stuff, but they don't really, you know what I mean? Like, you're living 10, even 100 times better than your grandparents were, 100 years ago. And if you were to interview your grandparents right now and do a podcast with them, the fact that you have like running toilets and electricity, the internet, all this kind of shit, they would look at like, I don't know. Yeah. How we complain about officials in government the same way, but we'll never get there. You know what I mean? Our perception of who we want as a hierarchy leader or president or prime minister, nobody's ever going to be perfect going forward, right? And the way that we have internet and social media and that kind of stuff, it's not like Jesus Christ is going to come down and run for office, right? And even if he did, like, would you really get 99% of the people voting for him?
I bet even if Jesus was running for office, it would be like 50-50 or so.
That's right. Yeah, there'll be some political spin on it at some point. He'll do an interview with Tucker Carlson, and then the left won't vote for him anymore or something. Who knows, right? It's just yeah. So sorry, I got off track a little bit, but what I was getting at is that it doesn't matter with DeSantis or Trump or whoever these kind of guys line up. It's like, it's going to be shit, whoever makes it into office in 2024. But I don't know.
I tend to be as cynical as you about that, I would say.
I will say this though, like, if Trump is going down right now because of this, and they really got hard evidence, it kind of like, I'm looking forward to the silliness of the race, and not so much in the presidential race, because I don't think Trump is going to run for president. And if he does run for president, I think he's got a really, really, really low chance. Like, yeah, I'd be wrong though. I'm one of those guys that said that Hillary Clinton was going to win in 2016, right? So yeah, I've been wrong about that kind of shit too. So
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I kind of think that if he does run, he might have a decent chance. But I mean, one of these other factors involved with that is it's like I've heard both of these stories from people that most of the Republican Party are pro-Trumpers, and then I've heard that most of them are anti-Trumpers. I know there are kind of two wings of the Republican Party, but I don't really know which one dominates it. That's an important factor. And also, of course, whether Trump actually runs or not. I kind of think that he does want to run, but I think that, if something happens with this, then obviously he won't be able to. But I kind of think that he will run if he can, just because of his fucking ego.
Oh, I think he wants to, but I think there's a lot of people that are in his kind of like circle, right? It's probably his kids and everybody that surrounds him are probably saying, "Don't do this," or think about this, Don. It might not be the smartest. I think he's lost a lot of his base. I think that a lot of those guys are not pro-vaccine, and Trump was, brought in the vaccine, and a lot of, that offended a lot of MAGA types, and the fact
Took
that
the vaccine. The vaccine's good. You should take the vaccine. I beat COVID. It was out me.
yeah, right. So a lot of MAGA types jumped ship after that whole thing, and like he didn't. Again, January 6th was a disaster. A lot of conservatives didn't like the fact that he didn't free Julian Assange or do anything with Snowden, or you know what I mean. Like, there wasn't any freeing or extraditing of those people. I don't know. I just feel like DeSantis has gotten more W's under his belt over the last, not W's, sorry, but more like, he's done more for the Republican Party than Trump has over the last like 2-3 years, right?
Who has, sorry?
DeSantis.
Okay.
So I just think that he looks like a better candidate than Trump. If you're voting for Republican right now.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
I see what you mean.
Yeah, I just wonder if this changes anything at all.
Yeah, I kind of wonder. I wonder how much it will too. I mean, it depends on whether they have any other evidence from their search, or whether they have any other evidence in general, and how much that's going to affect, like whether he's going to be criminally prosecuted, and whether that will prevent him from running in 2024, of course.
Yeah. I don't think they got shit, man. I honestly don't. And I just because I remember Russiagate, I remember impeachment number 1, number 2, number 3, whatever there was.
We have the smoke. We have the smoking gun. This is smoking gun number 432.
Yeah, the establishment and the media has always cried wolf and pointed at him as being nothing but a racist and the worst guy ever. And there's something to that, but at the end of the day, there's nothing to that. I don't think. You know what I mean? He just happens to be a rich businessman.
I think that this is a good line from that documentary about Daryl Davis called Accidental Courtesy. I forget who it was, but it was Joe Rogan on his podcast, but he was quoting someone else. I forget who he was quoting, but he was saying that not all Trump supporters are racist, but all racists are Trump supporters, or something like that. That kind of that might be true, but I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
Flippin' Donnie.
Yeah, Flippin' Donnie.
I don't know if you guys are fans of Better Call Saul, but
oh yeah, of course. Oh, I didn't realize that was a Better Call Saul reference.
yeah, Slippin' Jimmy.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, what do you think about all that kind of like strategic stuff that we were just saying, Dusty? Oh, you're kind of cutting out and roboting a bit there.
What were you saying?
You kind of cut out a little bit there.
Oh, I'm not sure what's going to happen, to be honest. I don't know exactly what the point of the raid was, but I do know in order to have a raid, you have to have a suspect of some type of crime being committed for a search warrant to be issued. We do know that people who have been raided before in the Trump administration have gone to jail. Manafort was raided. Trump's ex-lawyer was raided. both two dudes went to jail like after that.
No,
So I
okay.
don't know, man. I don't know what's gonna happen. We'll have to kind of just wait and see. Like when his lawyer got raided, I was like, we'll see what happens. Like I wasn't actually expecting him to go to jail over that, but that's what happened.
Mhm.
But yeah, we'll just have to see. I don't know, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't really know either. Kind of seems like we have the same thoughts about that. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, I don't know either. I find it hard that he was the president for, you know what I mean, and all eyes are on him for Russiagate. All eyes are on him for January 6th. This guy's been investigated throughout his whole entire presidency, and then beyond. I just think if they had a smoking gun, we would have known about it already. And I feel like they've cried wolf too many times for this to be like, this seems more politically motivated than I would say they got something on them. But that's just my hunch. And if I'm wrong, who gives a fuck, right? Then Trump's out of the picture and we move on.
Yeah. Yeah, I pretty much agree.
It just seems fishy, you know what I mean? And like the FBI has been like, it's hilarious to me to see right wingers and conservatives hate the FBI now and lose as much trust in them as they have. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
these are like
Yeah,
pro
definitely.
police guys. They're pro government, you know, all that shit. And for them to be like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, totally, man. Yeah. All right. Well, let's go into Jimmy Dore's little reaction video here and comment on it there. So just start talking or ask me to pause it anytime you guys want to comment there, and obviously I'll do that for myself as well. Okay. Here we go.
I'm here with Jackson Hinkle, the most censored man on YouTube, and America's comedian Kurt Metzger. Breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. Former President Donald Trump says the FBI is searching his Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida. The circumstances of the search were not immediately clear. Former President Donald Trump said in a lengthy statement Monday that the FBI was conducting a search of his Mar-a-Lago estate and asserted that the agents had broken open a safe. The circumstances of the search were not immediately clear, though the Justice Department has been actively investigating the discovery of classified information in boxes of records that were taken to Trump's Florida residence after he left the White House. The action marks a dramatic escalation in law enforcement scrutiny of Trump and comes as he has been laying the groundwork to make another bid for president. After working, so this is all about not letting Trump run for president again, because they know if he does, he'll probably beat Joe Biden. And they can't have this guy. And again, it's not that Trump is going to do anything different than Joe Biden is doing, but they can't have a guy like Trump doing it because he makes everything look bad. Then everybody all of a sudden gets upset that we're putting kids in cages. Everybody gets upset that we're starting 2 nuclear wars. Everybody gets upset that we're committing a genocide in Yemen. Everybody gets upset.
I don't think that people were already upset about those things. Do you guys agree with that? Are you there?
Agreed.
Okay.
Yeah, agreed. But I think like if you listen to like Dave Smith and Scott Horton.
Sorry, go ahead.
If you listen to like Dave Smith and Scott Horton, those guys are definitely pissed about Yemen. They're pissed that the media and everything is made all about Ukraine right now and not about, we forgot about Yemen, right?
Yeah, genocide in Yemen. They harp on that a lot, and like all of the wars in the Middle East that no one ever talks about, and the Russia and Ukraine conflict is hyped up by the media for sure.
Yeah.
All right.
Everybody gets upset. But if you got demented Joe, nobody cares. Joe Biden, or you get Barack Obama come out and sweet talk you, people look the other way. And that's what this is all about. That's what January 6th is about. That's what this is all about. They can't have a guy like him as the face of the establishment. That's all this is. After working and cooperating with the relevant government agencies, the unannounced raid on my home was not necessary or appropriate, Trump said in a statement. Justice Department spokesperson Dana Iverson, or Dina, declined to comment on the search, including about whether Attorney General Merrick Garland had personally authorized the search. The discovery of classified information at Mar-a-Lago was referred to the Justice Department by the National Archives and Records Administration, which said it had found classified material in 15 boxes at his residence. Federal law bars the removal of classified documents to unauthorized locations, though it is possible that Trump could try to argue that, as president, he was the ultimate declassification authority. He could just say I declassified it. Couldn't he do that?
You could have said, I just want to watch the
Does the president really have that kind of authority? I'm kind of skeptical of that.
Yeah, he has the ability to unclassify documents.
He does?
Yeah, I think like the National Archives they would have to either sign off on it or
what is this called? Kale.
I forget, somebody was talking about this earlier and broke it all down, and I forget what it was. But anyway, the National Archives is kind of pissed that he even has these documents. But I think the question would be, is it illegal for him to have these documents, and how long can he have this? Like, I'm sure there's a grace period where you're allowed to transfer everything over from the White House to, to the next administration or whatever. And I'm sure, I'm sure President, I don't know, does he even personally know about these documents in his house? Like, this is, some aide probably dropped them off there and forgot to return them or some shit, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and also, I mean, I want to say I do try to always make the point that people fucking exaggerate and get way too conspiratorial about the so-called deep state, but it does seem like, even though I don't think they have as much power and I don't think they're in lockstep with each other as much as people say they are, it does seem like they don't, whatever constitutes the so-called deep state doesn't like Trump. And I think that might be some of the reasons that they're doing this kind of shit. But then, I mean, also, like, with the January 6th stuff, that's some sort of thing that, even though people exaggerate the severity of that to an extent, that sort of thing has never happened with any other president either. So there is, like, he did do some really fucked up stuff because he's such, like, a bumbling narcissist, basically.
Yeah, I think the possession of these documents, I don't think it's malicious. It's probably due to incompetence.
Yeah, probably.
Because
that's usually a better assumption with Trump.
Yeah, because if you think about it, like how the transition is supposed to happen through each administration, and Trump pretty much checked out during that process.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure a lot of his former staff checked out of that process. So I'm pretty sure there was a lot of missing things that needed to happen during that transition period, which resulted in him having these classified documents. But I don't think it was a malicious thing, but obviously he wasn't doing his duty as someone that needs to transition to the next administration. But yeah, to me, it's not like some huge criminal thing that happened, but it is what it is. We'll have to see what happens with that.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I agree.
Though it is possible.
There are multiple statutes governing classified information, including a law punishable by up to 5 years in prison that makes it a crime to remove such records and retain them on an unauthorized location. Kind of like Hillary with her server.
Let's see, you just brought that up. So apparently it can include a punishment of up to 5 years. So if he does get prosecuted for that, then that's another open question. If he does get prosecuted, will he be fully prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law and be in jail for 5 years, which would mean that he can't run for president, that when he's in jail, I'm assuming, And then he didn't read that part there. Another statute makes it a crime to mishandle classified records either intentionally or in a grossly negligent manner. So even if it is negligence, that counts. It counts as that on Trump's part. I think like even if he is actually sent to prison for this, I kind of doubt that he'll even get a 5-year sentence because he's a former president. But I don't know. What do you guys think about that aspect?
I guess it depends on what's found in these documents, right? Like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's not going to be any criminal, like, it's not going to serve time.
Yeah, I kind of doubt
No.
that too.
I don't think he's going to serve time.
I would be
and don't think
surprised
this
at
is,
that.
like-
I would be very surprised by that too. I've been surprised by a lot of things with the Trump presidency, though. So there have been a lot of unprecedented things, as you said before, Chris. But that doesn't mean I'm saying that he will go to jail. I still think that's unlikely.
Yeah, again, though, like I'm on the fence. The only thing that's, I think that it's happened though, and there's something, a price he's gonna have to pay somehow, right? And I think this is like, I don't know. I could see it. I don't know. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's hard
Yeah.
to predict this, like you said, because the Trump is kind of unpredictable, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
even
for
this raid itself was like unpredictable. I don't think anybody really saw this coming. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I sure didn't. And I don't think anyone else, or at least not very many people, did either.
yeah, I want will we find
I was
out?
just gonna
Was
say,
it
this
like
sounds-
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Press Play. I was going to say, will we find out the real truth though, even if it does come out what's in those documents, right? Like, do you
Yeah.
trust with?
Yeah, exactly.
sounds familiar.
Sounds like Hillary Clinton doing this official information on her own private server. That's what this sounds like.
Did he have the
It does
files in his
kind of
bathroom?
sound like that, but as you pointed out, Dusty, she was also a government official at the time, and Trump is not a government official, but in possession of these classified government documents. I mean, it's probably equally small of a deal in either case, kind of, but I guess the only difference is that Hillary Clinton was a government official at the time.
Bathroom, and he had his assistants pouring acid on them.
Another statute makes it a crime to mishandle classified records, either intentionally or in a grossly negligent manner, which is what Hillary Clinton did, which is why she should have been prosecuted but wasn't. A separate investigation related to efforts by Trump and his allies to undo the results of the 2020 presidential election and the January 6, 2021 riot at the U.S. Capitol has also been intensifying. And what this is all
Does
about?
Jimmy Dore think that Hillary Clinton should have gone to jail for 5 years for doing that, having her emails on her personal server?
Yeah, I don't know.
I wonder if he actually thinks that, or he's just saying that because he kind of, like you and I were saying before we started this, Dusty, because of that kind of expose video from that guy in that channel, Timba on Toast, showing that Jimmy Dore is kind of in the habit of showing excerpts of articles without showing other parts that often contradict the point that he's making. It doesn't seem to me like he's an honest actor, and he kind of caters to a right-wing audience. Not that, as some lefties say, that right-wingers are inherently bad, of course. I don't think that at all. But it kind of seems like he's what is that word they use, Dusty? Ivor Grifton? Yeah, he's kind of doing that and showing like all sorts of studies that haven't been replicated and stuff, showing the supposed effectiveness of ivermectin and supposed ineffectiveness of vaccines and stuff like that. That in particular. But I think he's entertaining, but he's definitely not my favorite left-wing commentator.
I like Jimmy.
I think he's mostly just, to me, like entertaining because he's a loudmouth and he makes good points sometimes. But yeah,
he's a comedian. I don't really see him as a right wing guy. He's kind of like centrist, I guess.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't say that he personally is right wing. I think like he's kind of catering to that audience just to make money off of it. I think I do believe that he's like basically a progressive to the point that he doesn't like any of the Democrats, but he does like even say in his videos sometimes that, you know, like Biden and Hillary Clinton are worse than Trump and stuff like that. But I don't think that he would actually vote for right-wing politicians either.
Yeah, I don't know who. Yeah,
He seems to be a third-party guy.
Yeah, he's a classical liberal. That's what I take away from Jimmy Dore. He's like a comedian. He's a Californian guy, right? So he's in the left-wing culture, but he's not afraid to. Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
All about not letting Trump run again. They don't care if it's DeSantis. He's beholden to the same people. It's Trump that is the problem. DeSantis is beholden to the same establishment, and he doesn't say grab him by the pussy.
He's probably the guy scheduled to come in.
I don't know about him being beholden to the same establishment, but that is a good point about his rhetoric. People see him as like the way you were describing it earlier, Dusty, kind of like Trump light or something like that, so they think he's better because he has more respectable rhetoric, basically, which is one thing that annoyed me about people hating on Trump, because I'm not a fan of Trump at all, but people were always saying that he's worse in terms of the way that he governed even than George W. Bush, even though I think George W. Bush is the worst president out of the last four by far and is responsible for way worse shit than any of the other presidents. But people think that he wasn't as bad because it was 20 years ago and because he wasn't mean on Twitter and didn't use asshole rhetoric.
Yeah, I'd agree with that for sure. I think that there's been way worse presidents than Biden and Trump and Obama. Well, yeah, Bush would be up there for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. The president's bad.
Yeah.
And keep it going after everybody gets sick of woke. And
That's
they go,
right.
Here, we prepared a great. He's not woke and he's not going to groom your kids. And then he'll do all the stuff, all the same corporate Florida crap that they all do.
You know, I see people like Biden administration supporters on Twitter already saying like, well, you know, this had to get signed
That
off
guy's
by a
the
judge.
Jimmy Dore placebo, right? Jackson Hinkle.
Yeah, I don't know who that is. I watch Jimmy, but I don't watch Jimmy religiously. So I know who Kurt, the last guy was.
Kurt Metzger is the comedian, right?
Yeah, I've heard of him before.
I've just seen people like I think I've seen him in a debate with maybe it was Vosh, that lefty YouTuber, and I think I've seen people make videos about him, about how he kind of seems to basically just make the same points that Jimmy Dore does. So, I mean, if you watch Jimmy Dore, I don't see much of a point in watching him because you get the same opinions, supposedly anyway. I'm saying that from kind of a place of ignorance because I've never actually seen any of his videos, so that could be false, but it does seem like from what I've seen, that seems to be the case. Not that that's not really that important, though.
Judge, it had to get. This is a big. If you haven't figured out how politically motivated our judicial system is already, between Julian Assange, between the Hunter Biden laptop scandal, between Russiagate, January 6th, all of this stuff, you are completely missing the point and living under a rock, because this is exactly what the judicial system does. It's all about kickbacks, payouts.
See, doesn't he sound just like Jimmy Dore?
You know, I scratch your back, you scratch mine, and you're right, Jimmy. This is about them making sure that Trump can't run again in 2024.
I just don't want them to be disappointed again. I know they've gotten their hopes up so many times, and I just really hope that the thing that a judge said it is a thing, and the top secret information is really.
So this is what's known. These are political prosecutions. January 6th is also a show trial. that this is all, again, this is not about finding justice or
Yeah, I don't know about that about January 6th. I think people are right that like people are drawing too much attention to it, and especially stupid aspects like about how Trump apparently threw a cheeseburger because he was mad. Like, who gives a shit about that? But I mean, and I don't know, like maybe it's a show trial if there's no chance of him having any criminal prosecution for that, but I don't know if it's pointless. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
I don't know. I know there's a primetime spot for it, and I know there's been a bunch of investigation into it. I just don't think anything has been really surfaced. I know people are still in jail from January the 6th that are still waiting, trial and that kind of stuff. And but I just I think I think there's a lot of hyperbole. Not that January 6th was obviously, there's a lot to that, right? Inch deep, mile wide. But was it like an insurrection like Sri Lanka and India and other countries? What was that other one where they were like swimming in like the president's pool and shit? Is that
Brazil or something? I'm not sure.
Yeah, one of these countries where there was an actual insurrection. They had to call it their National Guard and blah, 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 blah. Like the January 6th one, to me, was just a bunch of idiots that happened to overtake the Capitol building. No insurrection actually ended up happening. They actually they solidified the vote in the Capitol building, delayed, obviously, because of all those people that were in there, but it still got, Biden still ended up becoming president. It's not like the government actually got taken over, but shady shit was obviously going down. People were, storming the front steps and overtaking the gates and that kind of stuff. And windows were broken and destruction of property. So,
and I think maybe a security guard died. And I think maybe one of the Trump supporters died.
And a cop was permanently injured.
Yeah, so a security died, but he apparently had a heart attack, so he didn't really die of the riot. But I guess you could say he did die, or something like that.
Die of fear of the riot, or something like that.
Well, it was presented in the media that he was clocked over the head originally by a fire extinguisher, and I don't think that was accurate. I think he did end up dying in the hospital of some other kind of life services. But you could fact check me on that. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. I think Dusty also. Yeah, and she was one of the Trump supporters, right?
Yeah, so you could say one loss on each side or something if you want
to
frame it horribly like that.
Yeah, of course. And
I don't know. Do you think Trump should go to jail?
Do I think Trump what?
January 6th?
Do I think he should be in jail?
Yeah, or should go to jail for January 6th.
No, I don't really think he should. I mean, I don't know. It's debatable. Like as people say, he was talking out of both sides of his mouth saying, we need to stop this. But also at one point he said, be peaceful or something like that. I think maybe it seems like he definitely didn't expect what was going to happen. And he was surprised by how terribly it turned out. I mean, I really don't know. I guess I don't really think he should, unless he directly said something like, let's go storm the Capitol building or something like that. But I mean, I don't know. I guess my point is that I'm kind of uncertain about whether he should. I kind of tend to be cautious about sending people to jail for shit. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you would say that you would need to see a lot more crazy rhetoric and a lot more solid evidence that Trump was actually tweeting, "Yo, go to the Capitol right now." Stop this vote, blah blah blah.
And I mean, the thing that, to me, the bigger deal to me is all his election fraud claims, which are straight up lies and bullshit. And even like Bill Barr said it was bullshit, and we're seeing more and more evidence about how that was bullshit. So the whole reason behind them storming the Capitol is what I have more of a problem with.
Yeah, I don't know about that election. It's still fishy to me, but I don't know.
Well, there isn't if according to what I've heard about anyway, there hasn't actually been any evidence presented in multiple. There were multiple court cases, and no evidence was confirmed for like voter fraud. That doesn't mean that there's always 0% voter fraud, but like nothing that would even remotely come close to overturning the results of the election, I don't think.
Yeah, no, that's true. No evidence. Yeah, I combed through that and went down that rabbit hole, and it looks pretty solid on paper. I just question, like, you know, there was 35 million more votes than there was for Obama for Trump and Biden, right? There was just, which is like, that's astronomical to me. You're telling me that, you know, Obama was the first black president, and, you know, had the record for the most votes at one point, and then all of a sudden, this last election, Biden destroyed that. You know what I mean? It just seems, I don't know. And it also seems weird to me that Trump got more votes the second time around than he did the first time. So that's
well, the American electoral system is kind of fucked up too. Like how Trump won in 2016, but Hillary Clinton still won the popular vote. So I mean, he won even though she got more votes. Just the American electoral system itself is just kind of fucked up and doesn't make sense. But I mean, like Dusty was saying earlier, the main reason that people turned out to vote for Biden is hatred of Trump, basically. Like that's how he campaigned too. Listen, guys, I'm not Trump, okay, sonny boy. Listen, Jack.
Yeah.
I'll have no shenanigans in my office.
I feel the same way about, well, a lot of, like I do, like the Bush. Remember Bush and Gore with the hanging chads and that kind of stuff? That one was fishy to me too. That one, I remember it. I was really young, but I remember Gore being pushed as the runner there, but then all of a sudden Bush, boom, overtakes him, and his brother Jeb Bush or whatever just happened to be the governor of Florida at the time, right? So
I'm much more suspicious of that election than 2020 for sure.
Yeah, no, I'm suspicious of all of them at kind of equal. Like, I'm even suspicious of the 2016 election where Trump won. I thought Hillary was going to win that for sure. Everybody, you know, odds makers, Vegas, everybody had Hillary hands down, and all of a sudden, boom, out of nowhere, this guy comes in just like, you know. And even Trump himself, like, if you've read any of those books about interns in the first kind of years of Trump's presidency, he didn't even think he was going to win, man. Like, Melania was like planning vacations and for them to do other shit a year after that, and they had nothing planned to, you know, as far as staff the White House or any of this shit, right? It just took them by surprise. So I don't even think they themselves thought they were going to win in 2016. So that one's fishy to me too. How the fuck did Hillary lose that, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Was your phone answering your question?
Yeah, I don't know how to respond. It was Siri. I guess Siri was on.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I find all like there's Canadian elections I find that are fishy too. I just think that, yeah, more so in the American, just because it's so weird. Like, yeah, there's so many. There's, you know, there's different districts. There's different states. There's and they're so divided evenly. Like, a lot of these elections are won by like 51% to 49%, right? Which is, you know, it's not like these elections are won 80% to 20% or whatever, right?
Yeah. Well, and it seems to always be the case that the minority of the population votes too. So regardless of who wins, the minority of the population is actually supporting them and actually voted for them.
Yeah, a lot of people don't vote these days. We got to keep that also in mind, right? Like we talked about 70, 80 million votes, but the United States has 350 million people, right? So that's only a quarter of the people, or maybe even half, less than half of the people voting, right? So yeah, all that shit is, and I'm sure if we were to break down a lot of smaller state governor elections, some of those are kind of fishy too, right? So I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? I'm very
There's lots
uncertain.
of
I mean, we could get deep into the weeds in political philosophy here because I'm not like I don't like I'm not anything like I'm not for any government system other than democracy, but I'm also skeptical of was it Winston Churchill's line, something like democracy is the worst government system, but it's better than any others, something like that. And then you can go the worst system except for all the rest. But then you can go all the way back to Socrates in ancient Greece. Plato quotes him in his famous book, The Republic. He quotes Socrates saying something like, democracy is the tyranny of the majority. But then also Socrates' proposed system of government was like a committee of philosopher kings who are these brilliant geniuses who make amazing decisions. So that's not very plausible either.
Yeah, I think democracy would work if the problem is we have like millions and millions. Once you get to the million mark, I don't think democracy works anymore. And I'd argue that we kind of live in an oligarchy, not a democracy at the moment, right? Where there's like a small elite few that actually are controlling and running shit, and most of these people are like big corporations that have influence and all this nonsense.
Well, and also that's a good point too, because you're reminding me of Chris Ryan in both of his books that I've read, Sex at Dawn and Civilized to Death, where he talks about he talks at one point about government systems and hunter-gatherer cultures and how basically it was all small kind of like egalitarian run ways basically, but it was always small groups. And he basically and a lot of people have talked about that sentiment too, that once you get to a big enough scale with a big enough population, the sort of government types of systems start to break down in terms of their effectiveness.
Yeah, it's a numbers game. I think once you get up there in population, the checks and balances slowly, like they're there for a reason. But I think that, it's just like when you actually vote these days, do you think that your politicians are actually hearing what you want as far as in society? Probably not, right? It's like the shittiest ideas these days, unfortunately, rise to the top.
Yeah, because the dumbest ones, it's like social media culture, right? In a nutshell, the dumbest and most simple and outrageous theories are the ones that rise to the top. Yeah, also, McEldoon said this too. Socrates wanted an aristocracy. The problem is, how do you define an aristocrat and what qualifies them to run things? Yeah, like that's like an aristocracy is similar to, I know they're technically different definitions, but similar to the oligarchy that you were describing, basically. Like both especially if we're talking about in the US, but I mean in Canada and other countries as well, both Republicans and Democrats are politically captured by corporate interests. So that's why they're not really that different on paper, even though they sound very different in their rhetoric, and they debate about these small little differences in policies, as Noam Chomsky talks about in his famous book, Manufacturing Consent. And, like in terms of a lot of things like fossil fuel industry and immigration and war, there seems to be a lot of bipartisan agreement on those types of issues.
Yeah, I forget where I heard that, but you're right. Like most politics these days is like we're arguing about the slivers that we don't get along with. Meanwhile, the glass is completely 98% full, right? We all agree on like stop signs and speed limits and if the country was to invade us or whatever, we'd want to retaliate or have a military defense system, or we all agree that, well, but not all. And when I say all, I mean like majority of people. We all agree that we should have some kind of, fire department, police department, all these kind of things. So there's a ton of stuff that, Republicans and Democrats or conservatives or liberals here in Canada would all totally agree on. We're just arguing about mostly cultural war bullshit these days, trans issues and, racism.
Drag queen
Black Lives Matter.
story hour for kids and all kinds of other
Yeah.
stupid shit. And what a lot of that culture war shit I just regard as paranoia, like CRT and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, let's just finish analyzing this Jimmy Dore video here, and then I need to end it soon here because I'm gonna go hang out with a friend pretty soon.
Cool.
All right.
Are getting liberty, or this is all about politics. This is all about the establishment, Republican and Democrat, coming together to get rid of Trump, the outsider. That's what this is.
Now, am I wrong as a legal expert? Judge Judy is more legally binding than the January 6th hearings on any level, correct? Yeah.
Correct. Hey, we're doing live stand-up comedy coming.
Yeah, I don't know about what the last thing he said there. I don't know how legally binding it is. I really have no idea. Do you?
I missed some of that. Legally binding, what was?
I think he said that these this FBI raid is about as legally binding as the January 6th meeting, which is to say not very much at all, is basically the sentiment he was expressing.
Yeah, I was one of the Daily Wire guys I was listening to, either Knowles or Shapiro, one of those guys, but because I wanted to hear their take on what they thought of this, and they were saying that he could still run for Republican nominee even if he's under investigation by FBI. Like that, there's something in the Constitution that says that you can still run for. So yeah, that's why it's, and maybe I could be wrong about that because it's, again, I listened to a biased source there. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what comes out of this. It'll be interesting to see where this goes. It'll be interesting if anything comes out of this at all, right? You hear conservatives are screaming and, oh my God, he got his house raided. Holy fuck, the house is on fire. And leftists haven't heard anything from CNN. They probably have it on, page 9 tomorrow on the New York Times. So yeah, I don't know.
And they'll see it as a victory too, I bet. Listen, this is the latest smoking gun. Trump will finally get dragged out in handcuffs.
I think if this was all like a distraction or something, well, something else is going on that we haven't heard of yet or don't know about. Like I could see that happening. It would just be hilarious to me if this all became a huge ordeal, a big stank. They send in the FBI. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then DeSantis is the front runner and he's up against whoever the Democratic nominee is. And like, this was all for nothing. Do you know what I mean? Because I agree with you. I don't think Trump is going to jail over January 6th unless they found this smoking gun with, whatever child pornography, him doing lines of blow off of the White House desk. You got to have crazy shit that they found here. And if not, then this is just a blow in the smoke. And then you've given the conservatives who already have kind of like a semi-red wave coming in the upcoming elections. You're just giving them a bigger kind of like, thing to run with. Well, FBI. What happens with the FBI too? You know what I mean? Like this, if DeSantis gets, or if Trump gets in, if Trump gets into power, let's say Trump becomes president, do you think that he wouldn't want to dismantle the FBI after this?
Of course he would, yeah. But again, like you said, when he got elected as president in 2016, he said he was going to drain the swamp, and then he just elected them again.
Yeah, again,
appointed them.
Like Rogan always says, I think they sit these guys down and go, listen, here's what happens to Kennedy, and
here's an angle of the JFK assassination that no one's seen before.
Yeah, so you just sit here and do what we tell you, and don't try to don't, because again, yeah, Trump didn't do shit. He didn't free Assange. He didn't free any of these guys. He had the ability to. He could have pardoned them. He could have wrote executive orders, but none of that shit fucking happened. It was just like another useless head figure that everybody was like, oh my God, for 4 years. And what? Like, I lived through those 4 years just fine. I laughed at the whole thing.
Yeah.
So thanks for the entertainment, T.
Exactly. Yeah. Trump is nothing if not entertaining. All right. Well, I've got to get going here. So thanks for talking about this with me, man. And thanks to Dusty for joining too. I think he had to go. And thanks everyone for watching. Our next podcast, hopefully this weekend, will be on that documentary called Reversing Roe about the history of what led to Roe versus Wade being overturned. Subscribe to the channel, click that like button, share this everywhere. Check out my Patreon link in the description of the video, where it is as always. Click that bell to be notified when I come out with new videos. And like I always say, I love you all. Keep being the tiny beam of light that shines through the almost impenetrable darkness in the universe. And most importantly, always remember this: the funk cures all, and groove is in the heart. And let's see what happens with this whole FBI raiding Mar-a-Lago thing. Might be time to get out the popcorn. We'll see if anything happens as a result of it. All right. And check out Chris's Substack as well. And you want to plug that before we end it here?
Yeah. Chris.nows@substack.com. CHRA. I'll shoot you the text and you can
put
it in the show notes or whatever. But yeah. Substack. Woohoo.
All right. Thanks again, man. And thanks everyone. And adios until next time.